do that. Okay, cool. So, welcome everybody, and let's just start off with whatever questions you may have. If it is about the energies that we're experiencing, I have to tell you that we've just gone through a 666 portal. So, if you have been feeling off for the last few weeks, it's also because of the eclipses that we've had. And a lot of emotional stuff has been coming out, especially if you have not been dealing with it. If you have stuffed all of your emotions inside of you and haven't been dealing with it, then you are being asked to release it. So, a lot of emotional um, messages or emotional memories are coming up. Like, I've had stuff coming up from when I was back in school, and I really didn't think that was so important, but it just came up, and then I was made to pay attention to it, and then I realized that there was some aspect of me that I hadn't healed from way back then. So just if you're getting emotional, just go with the flow of it. Don't try and like suppress it and tell yourself that no, I'm not going to cry about this. In the past. Don't do that. Just open yourselves up for it. Go through the emotions, I would say, and ask yourself, what is it that it's trying to tell you? What about that particular situation or experience that you've had that's coming up over and over again that you haven't really healed or dealt with? Hi, Juhi and Indrani. Can you please keep your cameras on? It'd be nice to see the
Yeah, a few minutes perhaps. A
No
few
problem.
minutes.
No
Yeah.
problem. So have you been going through something like that, like having these emotional ups and downs for the last month or so?
Yes, for sure.
I've ended up with a viral fever for the last 1 week right after I quit my job. So it's almost like the universe wants me to take some much needed bed rest, I guess.
Absolutely, yeah. There is that sense of rest as well.
Yeah.
Actually, me too. I've been having stomach issues. I've had a stomach infection. I was diagnosed with stomach infection and I'm on medication. So I know that it usually is some sort of a psychosomatic thing. When I'm stressed out about some relationship in particular, that's when this triggers.
What are you not able to digest in your life? When you're having a stomach issue, that's what you need to ask.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very much glaring at me, the situation. And the thing is, I don't know how to go about it. So I'm like learning, still in the process of knowing.
All right. So, how about you, Darlene? Like, have you been going through an emotional phase as well?
Yes, I was just thinking when I get sometimes emotions will come on, but they're not related to like the current situation. I could just be like working in the yard or something and then I'll get this emotion and I always try to dissect it and say, okay, where is this? What's this coming from? And it just like is like a wave. There's
Yeah.
no real, that's sometimes that's I have an issue or a problem with trying to drill down to what it's about.
Mm, yeah. So if it's coming like a wave, then just let it go out like a wave. If it's not affecting you, it's fine. But sometimes it can keep circling back over and over again, the same emotion. That's when you need to like sit down and be like, okay, let's just have a think and figure out where this is coming from because this is not a normal thing for me to feel like. Especially if you've been having this, from my experience, I have been having this feeling of not believing in myself or in the work that I'm doing, which is very strange because I have already done the work of releasing all of those emotions and believing 100% in what I do. That is why I speak with conviction even in my sessions. So that feeling was, it just kept coming like in waves, and at moments which were very, like you said, you were working on, in your garden and you felt that, and I was probably doing something else, and it would just hit me like, I don't believe in myself, imposter syndrome. So
Right.
then I just sat with it and I said, where is this coming from? And then I felt like when I sat with it and I allowed that emotion to go over me, then I felt that back in college or back in school when I was much, much younger, I always had this need to fit in because I was never like the other girls. And for me, I was very happy being by myself, and people thought that was strange because I had a lot of spirits for company, but then I had to fit into the whole 3D setting of college and school and things like that. And my friends, even though they loved me, they really thought I was weird all the time. Even though I wasn't talking about spirits or, making stuff up and saying, oh, I'm seeing this and I'm feeling that. Like, I am like that today, but back then I was very, very secretive about how I felt. Um, so this need of fitting in made me feel like I was going against my grain, and the insecurity of not being like my friends, of not looking like them or dressing like them or having the same desires like them was something that I took very, very personally. And I felt like something was abnormally wrong with me. Like, I thought, like, what? Like, because when my friends would talk about boys, I would not really have too much interest in them. And then it got to a point where I started questioning my sexuality and asking myself if I was really interested in girls otherwise, because it could have been a possibility that I was not looking at. And then I realized that that's not the case. It's just this whole thing of not looking at relationships the way they look at relationships. For me, they meant something else totally. So when I went through that, all of this stuff came out. And when that happened, I was like, oh, okay, now I can let go of it. I'm not like that anymore. I don't have to feel like that anymore. If I don't fit in, it's okay. You know what I mean? So that is how these waves of emotions make you feel. Like, they want you to work through those emotions and go to those paths which you haven't paid attention to in the longest time. Like, I don't know, when I finished school probably 20, 25 years ago. So I couldn't have, I mean, I wouldn't have even thought that that is where the emotion was coming from. So, yeah, anybody else would like to share?
Actually, yeah, I can kind of relate to that, Teja, because I've been getting these random waves of emotions,
I'm sorry,
feelings.
who's speaking? I can't
This
see.
is Sangeeta, sorry. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, Sangeeta. Yeah, sorry. Go
Yeah.
on.
So yeah, even I too have been getting these random waves of emotions, these feelings, but completely connected to something way back from the past. Okay, and it's mostly a sense of insecurity or not belonging or something like that. And it during that time, it kind of gets me quite confused about why I'm having that kind of a thought process because I don't know what to do with that, thought process.
If you haven't completely accepted or acknowledged yourself and the way you are and everything about you, then that insecurity can keep coming up to remind you to do that. So, if you
Okay.
have been going through a phase where there is this, I would want to call a emotional spasm of
Mm,
insecurity, like, it's like a physical spasm, but it's on an emotional level where you
mm,
suddenly you feel like insecure, but then you're like wondering, where did that come from?
yeah.
That means there is something about you that you haven't totally accepted. And that is where shadow work comes in, right? You have to go into all of those aspects of yourself that you have put in the dark or kind of
Mm,
ignored all of these years,
ignored.
because you're
Mm,
supposed to be a certain way, you're supposed to sit a certain way, look a certain way, do things a certain way. Depending on our cultural upbringing and family backgrounds, we are meant to be a certain way. We
yeah,
all are
yeah, yeah,
labeled and framed. Um,
yeah.
so you need to ask yourself, who is Sangeeta? What does Sangeeta want to be like? Like, you're playing a character, remember that. You are not Sangeeta. We're all just playing characters of Teja, Darlene, Sangeeta, Anna, all of them. We're just playing characters, right? But in the essence of our being, we are all from the same soul. We're from the same source, energy. So we've just come down here to experience things differently through these
Mm,
various characters. So don't get too attached to what you are feeling based on your experiences, because it is not you.
mm,
It's just a
mm,
part of you. It's not all of you. So when you connecting to the all of you, what is it that you want people to see you as? Is it this confident person? Is it this very calm, composed person? Is this bubbly, vibrant, boisterous kind of a personality? Whatever it is, you need to ask yourself what it is that you want people to perceive you as. And it doesn't have to be 24/7. You can be calm and composed 1 minute, and you can be this silly, funny person the other minute. But then you need to define that for yourself, not someone else
Okay.
telling you what you should be like.
Okay, okay, okay.
So, when you start seeing what is making you uncomfortable about yourself, whether it's your body or the way you dress, the way you talk, the way you feel about your intelligence or your emotional quotient, whatever it is, you need to sit down with that aspect and say, okay, suppose I had body issues most of my life. So I was like, when I did shadow work, I would sit with my body and say, okay, tell me, why do I hate you so much? And my body would be like, because you're stupid. And I'm like, no, no, it's not me, it's you. It's not my body, it's the way I am looking at my body that is creating that fiction.
Mm-hmm.
The moment I started accepting myself and working with my body started to change. And when it started changing, my confidence changed, my self-esteem changed, a lot of other aspects which it's related to also changed. So now I am this person who will be very, very colorfully dressed, for all you know, or have like a ton of crystals on her at one moment. And the second moment, you'll find this completely different, very sophisticated looking person you won't even recognize. And the other moment, you'll find this very homeless person, like who's very happy with her hair tied up, with no makeup on, with like chappal and like in the pajamas that she's wearing. So it's, I have different personalities, but I need to be okay with all of that aspects because I am all of that. I'm not just this person you're seeing today, right? And that is, I think, one of the biggest problems we have of how we want people to perceive us, and if we are being perceived positively or not, is like one of the biggest things that drives humankind. I feel like w- we are always bothered about, will that person like us? Why can't we ask ourselves, will I like them? Will I like their energies? Please, if you're not vibrating at my frequency, don't even come near me. Why don't we say that? Why is it so difficult? That's because we're always looking for validation outside of ourselves.
One of the things, excuse me, that I've found that always try to get to why. And I think, why can't I come up with the reason why I'm feeling like this? It's those questions about why. Why do you feel this way? And then you answer it. And then you come back and say, well, why? Why that? Like, oh, because I was young. And then say, well, why? And, you have to like delve into those questions to get you to see it, because you won't see it if you don't ask certain
Yeah.
questions and you don't think to ask. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but
No, yeah,
it's like,
no, you're
Makes
absolutely
sense.
right, darling. Like, you need to ask the questions, okay? And asking questions is what is going to give you different perspectives. A why question, however, is an infinite loop question. Please remember that, because you can ask the why question only in certain instances, but every time you ask, why is this happening to me, for example, it's not going to give you an answer. You have to first start with, what is happening to me and what can I learn from this? How can I change it? Can it change, first of all? If it can change, then how can I change this? And then maybe at the very end of it, they'll be like, okay, why did I have to choose this experience for myself? Or what made me choose this experience for myself? Because whenever you ask a why question, it's a very expansive thing. Like, you can have multiple answers to it. But when you break it down and ask the what, how questions, it narrows it down. So, what is this? Can I change this? If I can change it, how can I change it? These are the three questions that would kind of bring all of those answers. A lot of you have your cameras off. It would be really nice if you can turn them on so that we can see each other's faces and interact. It's just, hi Indrani.
Hello everyone. Hi.
Hi Mridul.
Hi.
Kamal, you had your camera on, then it got turned off.
Hi, Teja.
Hi.
Okay, I have a question.
Yes.
I have a couple actually, but I want to start with one. So for me, it's been since ever since I can remember, since I was a child, so you mentioned something that you thought was not consequential right now, but it's been coming up, especially in the past month, in the past few weeks, right? So for me, it's been always just fights with someone saying something to me, or something very simple, if I go in for a haircut or a hair color, that gets completely botched up, right? Simple things like that. And I tend to see it it happens all around me. So obviously there's something that I need to learn from it. There's something that I'm not being able to, the lesson is not complete. That's why it's repeating, right? But it's been there. And what exactly is it? Is it even mine to clear? What is it? It's always been there.
Have you,
And it just increased, amplified.
in this particular description of what was going on, you said that this always happens to me at least twice.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
It's specifically.
yeah, so those sentences, right, when you say this always happens to me, you're making it happen to you again and again and again. There's an infinite loop you're creating by the thought process. If
Mm-hmm.
you say this has happened today, then you're disconnecting from that energy that is looping out by saying this always happens to me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So whenever when you're talking about anything, even if it is something that has been bothering you for a while, try and get specific. Don't look at it as a pattern. Look
Okay.
at it, because our brains are very funny, right? If someone tells us, "Oh my God, your hair doesn't look good," for example,
Mm-hmm.
we look for evidence over and over again to make us believe that our hair doesn't look good.
Fair enough.
So,
Yeah.
because the brain works like that, the brain is evidential, it looks for evidence. So, whenever you're saying things like, I'm not good enough, then your brain is like, okay, she wants to believe she's not good enough, let's find evidence,
Mm.
right? So when you're saying that, make sure that you disconnect from the always, never, ever kind of words, because
Okay.
I never find the person I want to be with, or it always happens to me this way, So these things have a very long life, and they tend to repeat themselves. So when you're having, say, an experience, for let's just pick on the fact that you said you have arguments.
Fights, arguments, or some sort of a.
Yeah, so
Um,
whenever an argument is happening with you, I would like you to first check on what is the topic you all are arguing about,
could be
and
randomly.
what
Okay.
about this particular topic has triggered your anger. Because most often, it is not that person who's triggering you or the topic that's triggering you, but something inside of you that it's mirroring, that is triggered, is getting triggered. For example, there was always a time when my mother for me was a person that I always looked for validation from. And if she ever spoke about somebody else and praised them, and she would give me praise, okay, not like she wouldn't, but if she ever praised somebody else, something in me would get triggered, and I would, start an argument with her, saying that, why do you think that they're so special and I'm not? And she would be like, it's not about you, I'm talking about someone else. And it would just make me very angry, and then we would end up in an argument, and it would lead from one place, it would go somewhere else, and then I would just be like, why did I even get angry, right? But then I realized that every time she praised someone else, it triggered my insecurity, triggered me feeling like I'm not good enough, right? So when that got triggered, her praise of someone else made me feel I'm not good enough. She never told me that I was not good enough, but because she's a person that is of great influence in my life, her saying that triggered me. If somebody else praised that other person in the same way, it would have not triggered me, perhaps. So whenever
For
I
me,
get,
it's
for
so
example,
for me. Sorry, please complete. For me, it's actually different. What I've noticed is there's no pattern to it, because I can identify patterns, but here it'll be something random. Like for example, it'll just be um I'll try to get specific, because as you just mentioned, it's better to be specific about it. So whether it's maybe a fight with my sister, an argument, something to I'm going in for like a hair color that I mentioned, and that gets botched up, and I'm giving them plenty of chances to fix it, but it turns into something unpleasant. So the unpleasant bit, right? Like it has to turn into a fight ultimately, in which like, so that I don't understand where it's coming from.
So you're saying you fought with your sister or with the hairstylist?
Everyone, it turns into something like that. That's
Or
the thing.
that is because so did the fight start with your sister or with the hairstylist?
Neither of them, as in it started with today, right now was with my sister. But
Okay.
before that, it's been, and again, with her, it's been because, we haven't sent a notice that we're supposed to send to the hairstylist again, because they completely ruined my hair, like fried it, bleached it 5 times, gave me this weird blonde color. So it's really bad.
All right.
Good.
So if you're going to be specific, like if you're getting angry with someone who's done a bad job,
Yeah.
that is totally acceptable. I mean,
But why are those things repeating? Like those situations, like where someone messes up my hair 5 times, like bleaching it 5
have
times and
you
applying it.
gone in with that mindset that I hope the color comes out well, or
Yeah.
I hope
I set an intention very clearly.
yeah, no, not intention, but are you like hoping? Because hope is different from intention. When you hope that, I hope they don't mess up my hair and get the color right, the moment you say that in your mind, even see, you have to be very, very aware of your thoughts, right? And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
not something that we do on a regular basis, being aware of our thoughts, that some of these thoughts just miss us, like, and they just go right in. So we're thinking, I hope they don't mess up my haircut, or I hope they don't mess up the hair color. I hope I get it the correct way and it comes out looking like this. So you're sending a message into the universe saying that there could be a possibility of them messing up, right? And you're
It's like
hoping that doesn't
contradicting the
happen.
path, right?
Sorry?
It's like a contradicting the path, like which whatever the positive thought we are placing, in the same way we are
Negative thought.
in,
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
but
but
it's
yeah,
not.
my
we are applying the
question,
negative thought.
It's not a negative thought here, but it's just, see, when you're hoping for something, it's not a negative thought, but
you just
neither
don't
is
believe.
neither is it a positive thought. But if
Yeah.
It's
you
like we are
get,
adding a possibility
sorry,
it
Mridul,
may go wrong.
let me just finish what I'm saying, Mridul.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that when you go in with the conviction and you're already in a space of gratitude for your hair looking fabulous with that color, it's completely different energy. You see what I mean? When you're going with, I hope it doesn't look bad,
I
or I
went in
hope,
with a good energy, believing it's going to be fine. That's why I kept on letting them experiment for like 5 times. And so this is a specific incident. But things like this keep, like, I have noticed that they repeat since, I mean,
for a
as
while.
far back as I can remember. So obviously it's something in me, right? There's something that I'm missing, which is why it's repeating. It's happening. It's not about the hair. It's not about the fight with the sister. It's not about any particular incident. If something is repeating, it's like a pattern. So what is it like that I'm actually missing? What is it trying to teach me? Like it's somehow, I've been trying to figure it out and it just misses.
See, this is like a very specific question, right? It's basically to do with certain patterns in your
Yeah.
life which
Yeah. Yeah.
feel very, very similar, right?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
these have started at a certain point in your life, or has it always, like from the
It's
very
felt since I was a kid.
all right, okay. So if that happens, usually either you come in with a soul contract with
Okay.
having these kind of experiences that are supposed to teach you something about life in general. Again, I can't just use your hair coloring
Yeah.
experience to the rest of the,
Fair
um,
enough.
because they could be completely different.
They're completely different. Yeah.
Yes. So, depending on each of those incidences, you'll probably need to figure out what your own lessons were, because you are actually experiencing this because you chose to experience this in this lifetime. The script is all yours, right? So, for example, the hair fiasco could have been that you needed to learn to probably leave your hair alone for a bit because that's what your body wants. The body also, by the way, has its own consciousness, and it can make us do certain things that we can learn lessons from. So maybe your hair wants to be left alone or taken care of in a much more natural way than what you were previously doing to it. That could be one. It could also be that you needed from this experience to learn how to fight back for,
That
like,
I'm good at.
Yeah, but I'm saying if I had a botched up job, I would have just sat at home, cried about it, but not done anything about it. I'm just saying, like, different people have different lessons to learn from these experiences. It could also be that through this experience, you could have interacted with other people and learned a lot about that situation as well. So it doesn't, so the experience could be the hair fiasco, but the lesson could have nothing to do with it. It could be something completely different,
Hmm.
which probably is slightly associated with it. It's linked to that. Maybe you met a person who said something else, or maybe you found a better hairdresser who said, like, I can, help you repair that, or whatever. So these are all strings, right? And when an experience happens, it kind of strings us to someone else or something else. So the depends on which string you pull, it leads you to that experience. So if you
Mhm.
just calm down, like that anger, I know it's frustrating if anybody messes up anyone's hair, but when that passes and you calm down and you think about it and you think that, okay, this has happened, but what is it that I'm missing out? Is it associations with these certain people who helped me with this? Or is it because I needed to be grateful for my sister trying to push me to file that notice, or whatever it is? Like, there'll be very small lessons sometimes. It doesn't have to be life changing lessons, but you need to pay attention to what that experience has taught you. Like, you could be scammed, for all you know. Like, you could, like, those QR code scams everybody talks about, and you could have been the most intelligent person and still botched it up by sending money through that thing and
Mhm.
having them, like, drain your account. And you're wondering, how stupid can I be? Like, I knew this, but I still did it. You know what I mean? So you every experience is different, so you need to, like, look at it in that way.
Okay. Again, how do you, this is the second question, but sort of linked. So, for example, it brings up anger, right? Like, what the hell has just happened? And you try to calm yourself down and then you get another reaction. So, for example, anger, sticking to this or just normally, how do you transmute something that you're feeling? Like, so the hair's been, say, botched up, since we're going with this example, and you're super angry and frustrated, right? So how do you transmute a particular emotion? And because you have to transmute your emotion and thoughts to transmute the entire situation, right? To heal that particular circumstance. How do you do it?
You work with anger. You don't shy away from it. If you're angry, feel it,
Hmm.
okay? But doesn't mean you have to act upon it. There are a couple of things. One is, we tend to respond differently when we're angry or triggered. We
Hmm.
don't respond, actually, we react.
React, yeah.
So when we're reacting, we say things we don't mean to say, or we do things we don't mean to do. So when you are in a situation where you know you've been triggered and there is a very strong emotion like anger coming through,
Hmm.
the best thing would be to just sit with that anger, feel it. If you have to, like, go into a room and scream negative words or, like, foul language, whatever it is, beat up a bed, or I tend to just, like, walk away from a situation if I'm angry, because I don't like to say things I regret, so I'm very conscious of that. So I tend to walk away. But as a child, I would probably bang doors or break things, or, like, I would be in that space. And then an aunt of mine, she told me, you just have to breathe and count back from 10 to 1 to just calm down. Didn't work for me. But you need to find your own method of sitting with that anger. You can't bottle it up, because if you bottle it up, it's going to just become a volcano and erupt at a very wrong time. So just sit with the anger, ask yourself, okay, I'm angry now, but what am I really angry about? Because you can still, like, probably get your hair repaired in, like, a month's time, or let it grow out, or, like, there are solutions for it. But after that, even if that anger is simmering, it could be because of something else that's underlying. It could be an image related issue. It could be how people will start perceiving you, or it could be that, you can't go out with this kind of hair, and you've got, like, all your meetings cancelled because of it, and it's causing an income issue. So there'll be, like, underlying issues, right? So when you're sitting with it, you'll become aware of those other issues, and that's how you're going to kind of understand what you need to work with, and then slowly you'll calm down. Does that make sense? Like, you'll start saying, okay, fine, there is a solution for this. There is a some things which are not in your hand, like you can't speeden up the hair growth process or reverse it. You can't do that. So some things when they're not in our hands, there's no point worrying about it. You just have to be like, ठीक है अभी this happened, now what do I do from here? From here, where do I go? Because we often tend to get stuck in that loop. We're like, but how did this do this, and how can I do this, and how, you get stuck there. You have to acknowledge, okay, that happened. Now what? Moving
So you're
forward.
saying sit with it basically, and okay, I tend to do that, but like this is more generic. For example, I try to do this and it does help. It's not like it doesn't help, but yet the same thing repeats. So there's something that's obviously amiss. So I wanted to just like have your perspective on like how you would transmute something. Like I have a couple of methods, like I write it down.
Yeah,
That
journaling.
helps me.
Yes,
Writing
journaling
down.
helps. You can also write down whatever it is that experience was and burn it. That could also help. Uh, I would say try and get a cleanse done, like an energetic cleanse, whether it's with salt water or with
I do that.
whatever it is. Just do that. If that also is not working and these things are repeating, they could be coming from another lifetime. Then you would
Yeah.
have to sit and do a regression to figure out where it is coming from.
Okay.
And if it's still not going away, then there could be energetic parasites that are attached to you, what we call entities, or
I've
there
had an issue with those for sure.
yeah. So, because any person who's strongly feeling an emotion and it's getting very, very triggered and it's getting worse has an entity that is influencing that person's anger or emotion, especially if you have an addiction of anything. It can be triggered. If you have had a trauma in your life, it can be triggered. So there are multiple things. So like I don't want to like focus on only that because I'm sure others also have questions.
Yeah.
But these things, to actually completely transmute it, you will have to go in even deeper doing one of these sessions to find out if there's been a contract that you have made with yourself that I'm going to experience these things, and then figure out what it is. Even that would require a regression. If you it's coming from another lifetime or influence of something else, again a hypnosis would be really helpful. If
QHHT
yeah,
or just regular hypnosis?
any quantum hypnosis. So there are actually 5 methods now that I work with. So any of these methods would give you the information that you're looking for, but not a regular past life regression. A regular past life regression can tell you probably some of it, that wherever it's coming from, but it won't transmute it because the transmutation happens when you connect with your super consciousness.
Mhm.
So that is something that you can probably consider.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, hey Teja, this is Sangeeta again.
Yeah.
So we have Megha with us. However, she said that she is not able to speak to you directly. So she's typed out the question. So I agreed to read it out to you for her. She says, I want to know about ancestral healing. I have a toxic mother and a lot of things piling up. I want to know some tools that I can practice so that I can stop attracting toxic partners, toxic bosses, or perspectives. I'm just wondering, is it because of the toxicity that is carried from my mother to me?
Okay. So,
That's one question. There's just one more which is attached to it. She's asking, also want to know, how do we know if there is any spiritual download happening in
all
us?
right. Okay. So, let's start with the ancestral healing. Ancestral healing can happen in many different ways. Especially, see, one thing you need to understand is we choose our parents don't choose us. It can be very shocking to hear, but we are the ones who choose our parents. We decide who we're going to be born to and which family and the situation of the family. It could also be that we'll choose to be born to say a particular person, but they could give us up for adoption and you end up in another family. Or there was this one person I had a session with who got swapped at birth at the hospital, and both the mothers didn't know the children got swapped, right? But she had this feeling. So ancestral healing can happen in many ways. One is biological ancestry, the other is adopted ancestry, or like the person you you were swapped with, or you thought were your biological parents. um, and this can happen. Many healers do it through the Akashic records. There are healers I know who can heal through the Akashic records. The other is DNA work. People do a lot of DNA healing, ancestral DNA healing. There is also, I forget the names of some of them, but there is this method. If anybody knows the name of it, please let me know. Where you go into a semi trance state, like the practitioner is asking you to close your eyes and is asking you to go back or go up the ancestry line to see where it is coming from. And then the healing is a family constellation. It's called family constellation. That also, I've like a few of my clients have said that it's worked really well for them, so you can try that. The best I would recommend is a quantum hypnosis session, because in a quantum hypnosis session you go down very, very, very deep, like not just your own ancestry but even your soul path, like where you first originated from. If there's been any trauma on another planet or another dimension and you carried forward that also can get cleared. So a quantum hypnosis session is a very it's like a deep dive into your soul, and you understand what you have been in other lifetimes, what your probably your mother was in another lifetime, why you're having this friction with your mother. In one of my sessions, there was this client who had a similar situation to you. Her mother um, was very, very toxic, so much so that she felt like she was killing her. And the client ended up with lymphoma. She had cancer of the lymph node in her chest, and she came to me for healing for the lymphoma to be healed. And when we dug deep, we understood that there was so much going on, because the mother also had a very troubled uh, past. Her husband had left her, and she was a lot of things had happened with the client's mother, and the sister also was not a very easy person to live around. So there was too much happening for the mother to like deal with. So she took out all of her frustration on her oldest, which was my client. But when we went into another lifetime and we dug deep and found out what was actually happening, she saw that in another lifetime, my client had her mother as his child. So he was a man, my client was a man, and her mother was his daughter. And a very loving family, but when his wife died, he chose to remarry because he felt like his daughter needed a motherly figure, and that didn't go down well with the daughter. She detested the fact that her father could marry someone else and dishonor the memory of her mother. That's how she felt. So at her college graduation, when he went to congratulate his daughter and see her graduate, she hugged him, and then she drove a knife up his heart as she was hugging him, and he was so shocked and traumatized, and he didn't know why the daughter was doing that, and she basically killed him in that lifetime. So in this lifetime, because of that healing that was not done, that was not achieved, it carried forward. And so we had to go back and speak to the essence of her mother from that lifetime, make her understand that it was okay for her to leave behind the hate and to open her heart up to the love that her father genuinely had for her, reconcile with her father, heal that lifetime, close all those connections, disconnect all cords from that lifetime. And then when she woke up out of hypnosis, and we did like a lot of other work, but when she went back home, she was very skeptical. She didn't want to tell her mother, like, what, you killed me in another lifetime and you're killing me now. But she told her what happened, because obviously her mother was wondering, she went for a session and what happened, but she kind of left out the part of her killing her. But as the days went on, she started realizing that her mother's energies had softened towards her, and she started becoming the mother. Because till then, my client would keep saying that my mother is like my daughter. My mother is like, I have to take care of her. She doesn't take care of me. I have to do it. and I'm tired, like I can't, because my health is not good, and I can't. And then she called me like about a couple of months after, and she said, you know what, I don't know if it's the session, but things have started flipping, and she started behaving like my mother. I mean, she is behaving like my mother once again. And now they are the best of pals. They're inseparable, and it's been like 3 years. She's completely free of cancer. She's healed her body, she's healed her relationships. They have a much better understanding of the relationships now. So we don't know how these things work, right? So when you go and use a technique like a quantum hypnosis session, you're able to trace it back to why something happened. If you have a contract with your mother, um, and if there is a contract in this lifetime which your mother made with your soul, saying that I'm going to torture you, I'm going to treat you badly, then you can also tear up that contract and heal that, so that you will start experiencing things differently. But it will take some time for it to kind of become effective in the physical world, in the 3D aspect of things. But it does happen. Like my client, after 2 3 months, everything was, it just flipped 180 degrees. Like her mother, who wanted to like kill her, had become this very nurturing parent. So ancestral healing can also happen through quantum hypnosis. This is just one of the tools. You can also consciously do ancestral healing if you are someone who meditates and um, can connect with your great 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 ancestors. Then you can also ask for guidance from them and heal that. That can happen through a lot of different various techniques, but these are the most simpler ones: the DNA repair, the akashic records healing, the uh, quantum hypnosis, the family constellations. All of these techniques with practitioners who have experience in them can really help you repair that. I hope, Megha, if you have understood that, please give me a thumbs up, at least on the chat. What was the second question, Sangeeta? I think I lost Sangeeta.
Yeah, the second one was how do we know if there is any spiritual download
Okay.
happening in
So
us?
spiritual downloads are basically stuff that they're like packets of information that just get dumped on our head. It's different from intuition, because intuition comes from within our bodies, within our etheric body as well. We pick up information from all around us, and the intuition is the knowingness of like, okay, I have this gut feeling this something is going to happen. So that is your intuition. a, a spiritual download happens on the crown chakra. Mostly it hits your head or your third eye, but mostly your crown. It comes from above. It is like this feeling of having information about something that you could never have known about. So when I do say the Akashic records, I have spiritual downloads, because I'm connecting my crown to the energies of a higher consciousness, and they're dumping information. So I don't wouldn't know anything about my client, for example, and then this download happens where I'm dumped with information. Does that make sense? So you can enhance this ability by doing meditation and also intuitive exercises, where where you can differentiate between what is intuition and what is a spiritual download, because usually the information that comes from these spiritual downloads is something that you're not familiar with, or something that is completely different from your conscious perspective of a situation. So sometimes when I do the Akashic records again, if someone were to ask me a question about a relationship, and I would tell them that, oh, this person is wrong for you, because that's my conscious mind that is perceiving this relationship to be not a suitable match. So I'm telling her, but why are you even like, this is such a bad match. Like, why do you even want to consider it? But once I'm in the records, I get like a very different perception of why that relationship needs to happen, or what that relationship is going to mean to the client. And I'm surprised. I'm like sitting there wondering, like, wait a minute. I just told her that this was so bad for her. And they're saying, like, no, no, she's supposed to go through this because there is a learning here for her. So that's a spiritual download, because that's completely different from how I'm perceiving it to be. Does that make sense? So, a spiritual
Yeah.
download, you can enhance it in many different ways. Meditation is one of the biggest things. Setting up a space for the downloads is another thing. So, the more you have like your space where you go into and say you have an altar, you burn a few incense sticks, you set up that mood, you set up that space to receive that high energy, and nobody else is allowed in that space. Or perhaps you when you get into that space, you can disconnect from the outside world and just go into your inner knowingness. That's how you can enhance these spiritual downloads. There's so much more to that, but yeah, in short, that's what happens.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, I have a question
Yeah. Yes, Anna.
about the QHHT only, that how many sessions are normally needed and how is it different from like regular hypnosis?
So, a regular clinical hypnosis is done with counseling, with a psychotherapist or a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychotherapist, neither am I a psychiatrist. But the hypnosis practice that we do, the quantum hypnosis, is different from regular hypnosis. Is in a way, counseling is not involved. Second, multiple sessions are required for the clinical hypnosis because they target each specific area of the person's life, and then they kind of regress them back in this particular lifetime. Most of the time they go back to that scene in this lifetime which could have had something happen to them, and then they kind of work out all the knots, and they keep moving backwards till everything is cleared. So it will take like a couple of not just couple, like a few sessions for them to uncover all of that. um, Past life regression, however, also might require a few sessions. Again, depends on the practitioner. So my aunt is a psychotherapist, and she also works with other people who do past life regression and things like that. And I have, uh, sorry, yeah, so I have asked them how they do it, and they said that the first couple of sessions are just basic counseling sessions. They get to know the client, they get a lot of information, and then they do the past life regressions, which is done over a period of time. The quantum hypnosis is a one-time thing. Like I said, it's a deep dive session. It's done over a 4 to 5 hour span. And usually one session is enough for a person, unless there is more work that needs to be done and it wasn't done in that session. Then you come for a repeat session, depending on what your superconscious tells you or advises you. So in a quantum hypnosis session, you are not given any counseling. A lot of questions are pre-prepared, like you write down all of your questions that you want answers to, and they're kind of divided as in like physical problems, medical problems, emotional issues, financial issues, spiritual issues, relationships. So you kind of divide the questions and you make a list like about 10, 15 questions. And then what happens is we go into the first phase of the session is where we just talk about your life, and I gather as much information as I can about it, so that I have an idea of what your repeating patterns are. Sometimes people don't know unless you are asked. Like, suppose when someone comes to me and says, "Oh, I have been having these migraines for some time now," and then I ask them, "So when did they first start?" And they're like, I never really thought about it. And then they would say, "Oh, it started, when? Like, it started like 5 years ago when this happened to me in my life." And that could be a trigger. And then I asked them about what were they feeling or going through during that particular incident in their life. So we kind of jog up the memory, so to speak, in the first half of the session. And once the higher self is all riled up and ready to go, that's when we do the hypnosis part of it, where we first go into a past life. We uncover a lot of information that could be related, and then we go even deeper to a theta state where we access your super consciousness, and this is where your spirit guides, your entire team comes in. Whoever you have belief in, faith in, gods, goddesses, everyone tends to turn up around that time, and your higher self included. So that is where you ask the questions that you've made a list of, and you get your answers. You also get your healing, whether it's physical, emotional. You get all that healing done in the second half. So this is a regular quantum hypnosis session, and now I am adding entity release also to it, which means that there could be certain energy parasites or energy vampires or cords or hooks or drains that could be attached to you, coming from other lifetimes, coming from this lifetime, There could be earthbound spirits, there could be dark force entities, it could also be artificial intelligence, or it could be an alien that could be attached to you, trying to siphon off some life force because they need something. So a lot of things can block you from going deeper into your past lives and getting information, and it could also go make you not relax, especially when people come to me and they have entities. They are so restless, they're like moving about, and they're like, wait, let me just go to the toilet, wait, let me just drink water, like they're not ready to relax. And that's how I know that it doesn't always have to be entities, mind you, it could be that they just have anxiety issues, but I can see spirits, so sometimes I see attachments in people. Not very often, only when I'm in that state of mind, when in a semi trance like state, that's when I pick up on it. And when I'm doing these quantum hypnosis sessions, that's when I see if there's any energetic parasite attached, then I try to take it out. So now the quantum hypnosis sessions have gotten even deeper. We do that at the very beginning. We heal the chakras, we repair the aura, and we make sure that nothing is interfering with you anymore, nothing is influencing you anymore. And then we do the past life and then the higher self. So it's become even more detailed now, the quantum hypnosis sessions. So this is a one time thing. You don't need multiple sessions for it. You don't need to, like, unlike other hypnosis, you don't need to like keep doing it over and over. But yes, there may be a time when you might want another session 6 months from now, 1 year from now, and then you can come back to me for it, unless your guides specifically tell you to come back at a stipulated time.
Okay, thank you. And I also had one more question to go with it. Is it, can you get QHHT done like online, or is it, and how you can, right?
Yes, so there are methods and techniques which have evolved over the last couple of years. For quantum hypnosis technique, the QHHT technique, we are told to do it in person, but the other techniques that I'm talking about, the quantum hypnosis sessions that I'm doing nowadays are all online sessions, because I have specifically trained to do these things online. There are certain safety parameters that are put in place. Even through the hypnosis, there are these things that are put in place so that they don't affect you in any way. And I have had the best sessions online, because in person, what happens is when you go into a state of hypnosis, you tend to speak softly. And I often find myself like, hovering above the client. I'm like, can you say that again? I didn't hear you. And or the face is turned away from me and I can't get it on recorder, because the recorder is one side and they're saying something else and I can't hear what they're saying. And it tends to make me feel agitated, which the client then picks up, because in that state they're very, very sensitive to energy, and then they get distracted. So I've had a little bit of trouble with in-person sessions, but online sessions have been fabulous. I'll just 1 second, let me just show you this. um, so I do it with this headset. So you just pop it on, and there's this microphone that is outside of you. So it's so much more easier for me to listen to everything the client is saying, even if the person's head is turned either way or they're moving about. Because when we wear these earphones and they're right here, right? And when we're moving, they keep shuffling and they keep making noise. So it's very distracting for me as a practitioner. But with these headphones on and with that microphone, it becomes so much easier for me to hear you and for you to hear me, because I'm constantly in your ear, and these most of these headphones are noise cancelling, so you can't hear anything else except me. So you go in so much deeper, right? And you're doing it in a place which is familiar to you, where you are comfortable. So that is an added bonus, because that makes you even more relaxed. Because when you are on your bed, you know the exact like positions like you want to like snuggle into, right? So it just works better that way. So yeah, we do the sessions online.
All right, great. Thank
Yes,
you.
Shanti, sorry, you had a question?
Yes, Teja. So my question is actually for you. I mean, it's about you. So have you ever had to cancel a session because the guides themselves felt that the client was not ready to hear the answers, or has there ever been a moment where you had to stop the session? Stop the session during the reading itself because it was too intense. The reading was too intense. Has that ever happened to you?
Uh, Actually, no, not really, because every time I connect, I accept a session. They're ready to hear whatever has to come through, even if it's a quantum hypnosis session. It doesn't have to be like many people think. Oh, hypnosis is scary, and now that I'm talking about entities and attachments, it's not scary at all. I've had a session on me done yesterday, and I had like, I wasn't even expecting anything. Like I was just telling myself, I'm all clear. There couldn't be anything in me, and But then I was very surprised to find implants in my brain, which were not allowing me to receive information more easily, because apparently my voice is very important. And they had like this huge implant at the back of my head, put in by an artificial intelligence, that was basically an information gatherer. He was just doing it to pick up information, but another dark force entity attached itself to that device and was putting these doubts in my head. Like I was telling you at the very beginning, this whole imposter syndrome I was going through. I was feeling like, oh, why don't I believe in myself? The dark force entity was doing that to me. So now that's been removed and taken away, and even my implants have been removed and taken away. Since this morning, I have been having amazing downloads, and it's like just so much more clearer. And even the mediumship class that I went to that class because I wasn't really sure of my abilities, and then I realized like this lady's saying the exact same things that I've been doing for a while now. And it just kind of reiterated or kind of confirmed that what I was doing was correct, and that entity was the one that was creating all of those self-doubts. So I was not prepared for that information, yet I was okay with it. It didn't scare me. Because when you're in that state, you know you're protected. Your guides are there. You feel their energy. You feel my energy. You feel everyone there. So you will not have fear. If there is fear, it's an entity that is making you feel uncomfortable, and then we address that fear and we take it out. So usually it doesn't happen. In an Akashic record session, the spirit guides will not tell you anything that you are not ready to listen to. If there is any information there, they will tell me and I will communicate it to the client. I think in your session or something like that, I'm
Yes,
not sure so that.
exactly. Yes.
But however,
The part of the question that was actually the answer was blocked. So that's why I was just wondering, like, has it ever happened where you altogether had to cancel the session because the guides were like, no, 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 it's not required.
yeah.
The session
So
is
when
not.
it is not required, they're not giving you that information, because sometimes as a human, we tend to like stick to that information and be like get influenced by it. So
Mhm.
if it's an information that's going to influence you in a way that is not going to change your mind, they will not tell you that, because it's a
Yes.
free will planet, and you
Yeah.
don't have to have that information if you don't want to.
Mhm.
But at the same time, they will not tell you something that can either change the way you look at life or perceive things differently. They will not do that because they don't want to change too much about you. They want to give you information that's useful, right? But there have been times when I would book sessions with clients who would just randomly call and say, I need a session, and I don't check on their energy or anything, and I book a session. And then later on, my guides are like, we don't want to do the session for them.
Oh, so it has happened.
That can
Okay.
happen, but this is not during the session. This is after I made a booking, or
Okay.
after I've been contacted by somebody and I already gave them my word saying that yeah, we can do a session. Then they tell me that this person, no, and then I'm like, why not? Like, why not? And then they tell me that she's not open. He or she, whoever it is not open, because they are coming in with a conceived notion that they want to hear this specific answer.
Yeah, correct.
There are people who will be like, but no, that's not what I want to hear. I have had a lot of people saying that to me, but that's not what I wanted to hear. And I'm like, no, but this is what you need to hear. It's not what you wanted, but this is what you need, right? but they're like they get very offensive and defensive, and they're like, they just close up their energies. The other kind of people who they sometimes refuse to work with are skeptics who are trying to test me, because as it is, I have self-doubt issues, like you all know. So so my guys are like, no, not them, because they know that they can probably affect me adversely. It's not about them.
Yeah.
you know Sometimes it could be that there is this energy of that person which is not matching my energy, which would not allow me to connect with the records for them.
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
it happens very, very rarely. I've not had that happen in Akashic records, but with a QHHT, there have been times when I referred people to other colleagues of mine because I just couldn't work with their energies. Like I would immediately know that I can't help them.
So, okay, so sorry, I just have a follow-up question to that. Do you have other people in your Akashic Record group who work with people who have more, what do you call, I don't want to use the word dark, but I don't know what other term to use. So is that, I mean, is that a thing in the group? I'm just out of curiosity.
Nobody has dark energies. Like
Yeah.
everybody's made of light. Please understand that. Even the dark energies that are attached to us have light. They've just forgotten that.
Okay.
So that is why I'm saying nothing is scary, because the entities that we're working with have forgotten that they come from the light, and they
Okay.
are made to believe by other beings of who are not so good to the planet that we are your masters and you're supposed to do this. So out of fear, they're made to believe that they're dark entities. But the moment you start showing them light, and they realize that, oh my god, I'm made of light, everything changes, right? So nobody is made of anything dark or negative. It is a perception that makes it dark or negative. Energy just is. It's not good or bad, right? So nobody who's come to me has had that. I mean, that kind of energy that I don't want to work with them because they're like nasty people or nothing like that.
Yes.
Even if they were my guides, but the moment I connect, my conscious mind gets switched off. So then I'm
Yes.
not feeling that nastiness about them anymore. When they come in, it's pure love. It's like you can
Yeah.
be Hitler sitting in front of me, and you would have had that, you would have killed a million people, but I would still give you information because that's what you need right now. But the moment I switch off, I'm like, ew, Hitler. Why did I work with him?
Yeah.
You know, that's the kind of feeling I have. But that's coming from me, right? As being in this body with my own filters and my own experiences. So nobody has that. But yes, I do refer if I'm either booked out and I don't have space to accommodate, then I do refer people to other clients. I mean, other practitioners. Sometimes if like there was a long time when I refused to work with entities because they scared me, like because all my life I was seeing entities and I really didn't know much about them, and I would just scare myself to death. um, so when a couple of people came to me saying that they know for a fact black magic was done on them or that entities were attached to them, my conscious mind would just switch off and be like, that's not my area of expertise. Let me just send them to somebody who is, because if I can't help them, at least I know of someone who can probably relate to it. But now I'm more confident working with entities, and I know that it's not all bad. So now I'm opening it up, but it took me a while to get there. You understand? But again, it doesn't make them bad people. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, it does.
All right.
Thank you. That was very interesting, actually, eye-opening.
Thank you. Kirti, you had a question.
Yes, actually, I have a couple of questions. Um, in Indian culture, they say that they take the evil eye off using lemons and red chili. Do you believe in that? Means, have you seen the effect of it anytime energetically?
I personally believe in rock salt. No, I don't know about lemons and red chilies, but I do feel that they would probably absorb negativity because there are a lot of practitioners, even outside of India, who use lemons to check the energy of the house and things like that. Though we have, as Indians, have them strung up on our doors and stuff to keep or ward off evil spirits. There is actually a lot of theory behind that. You can check up on Google. I remember reading about why lemons and why the dry red chili. And it was basically used as medicine when people were traveling over a long distances. They would use lemons and red chilies as healing ingredients, and sometimes they would not have those ingredients readily at hand, so they would tie up the lemon and chili together and string it on their carts, and that's how it began to develop as warding off evil spirits and things like that. It is not basically that they do, but see, anything can ward off evil spirits if you put an intention into it. So I can just, use my crystal here and say that, okay, as long as I hold this crystal, nothing is going to come near me, and it won't, because your intention is the most powerful tool that you have, more than any other object around you, right? So yes, I do believe in evil eye, funnily, which is very interesting point of view. But I do believe that people can siphon off energy by focusing too much on you and saying like, why is she so successful, or why is she like this and that. And I feel it somehow affects the auric field. But I also believe that salt or sage or any other cleansing substance can remove the effects of it, or psychologically you believe that it does and it affects you in a positive way. So yeah, you can do that. What's the second question?
Um, I'm going to tell out my second and third questions also in a row. Second question, talking about what could harm us energetically. One point you said as artificial intelligence, and also you had an implant of artificial intelligence on your brain. That is the next question. And the other question is that what makes people susceptible to have these entities or any kind of attachments? Is it any particular chakra or the aura or
All
what?
right. Okay. Both are good questions. One is what can harm us? Actually, nothing can harm us without our consent. One. It again depends on your upbringing and thought processes. If you are someone who has a negative way of thinking, then everything seems like it's harming you. But if you're a positive person, then even if harm is being done to you, you'll be like, no, but that's nothing. So it's your perception that can make you feel like you're being harmed, or your perception of you being protected all the time, right? So that having said that, there are energy vampires. So when I say energy vampires, please don't imagine those, you know and vampires, literal vampires sucking blood out of you. But these are basically people who subconsciously tend to attach their energies to your energies and siphon off, like to drain you of your energy, only because they don't have enough of it, and the only person who could probably give it to them is physically close by. And so the energy goes out looking for it, and then they just absorb it, either because they're sick, or they're mentally not very healthy, in the sense that they don't have to be a person who's mentally ill, but they don't have good thoughts and they have very low self-esteem. It could be a lot of different things. So this is what we talk about as being evil eye. So that when you feel drained of energy, it's often people who have an imbalance in their own auric fields who are siphoning off this energy from you to feel that balance. So I'm sure many of you would have interacted with at least a few people in your lifetime where you are talking to them and they don't make you feel so good after they leave. They make you feel very drained. They make you feel like, oh my god, I need to go and take a nap. Like, you feel very drained with certain people, even situations or even places. So anything can siphon off your energies. So that is why it's very important to protect our energies by placing an energy shield of white light around us at all times and keeping our vibrations high. So the simple thing you can do to keep your vibration high is to live in a state of joy. Don't overthink things. Don't be in a place where you're constantly worrying about something, or you're in a place of lack. I don't have it. I don't have this money. I don't have that relationship. I don't have that job. Whatever it is. The moment you are in that low vibrational frequencies of fear, of hatred, of anger, of sadness, you're bringing your vibrations down. Everyone goes through bad days. I'm no like a stranger to that. Like even I have my bad days. But making sure that you raise your frequencies whenever you have the chance will keep anything negative out of your auric fields. Okay, the second thing is the artificial intelligence. So in the universe, we're not the only ones. If you don't believe in that, then you're in the wrong group. um, we have a lot of different civilizations out there, many galactic forces at play. There are a lot of other alien civilizations from various dimensions and realms that we interact with on a very regular basis. At the astral level, hopefully not physically very soon, but at an astral level we do interact with them. And most of them are of three categories. One, they are information seekers. They are looking for information to kind of relay it back to their headquarters wherever they come from. Second are what are they called? They're like experimenters. They're trying to create experiments with humankind by giving them certain information or putting them in certain situations and like again relaying back information. The third are the ones who are disruptors. They're the ones who are trying to cause chaos. So the first two are you know yeah, sorry, the first one is information gatherers. The second one are spiritual enhancers. So they are trying to interfere because they want you to grow spiritually, or they want the earth to grow spiritually. So they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, but they tend to interfere nonetheless. And being on a free will planet, they're not supposed to be doing that. So they're not actually technically allowed. So they can try to enhance your spirituality by also putting in devices in your bodies. So when I say devices, they're not real like metal, like it's not real metal. It's etheric. It's energy wise, it gets implanted. I don't know if that makes sense. It's very hard to imagine, but when you're looking at it, it looks like real metal. So it in that way, then I would say that it's like a metallic implant in my head. It was a golden metallic implant. um, but then it's not real metal. So please understand that. So there are information gatherers who are just simply gathering information and relaying it back to see what's happening on planet Earth. Second are people who are trying to uplift the spiritual energy of the planet. And again, they're not meant to be there, but they're doing it because they don't know otherwise. And once you connect with them and say you're not supposed to be here, they just leave happily. They're like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have been here, and they leave. The third are disruptors. The third kind are the worrisome kind, because they are the ones who are trying to create chaos. So they are beings who would probably place implants in your throat and not allow you to speak your truth. So every time you feel, there are people, I'm sure, on this group as well, who find it very difficult to speak their truths. Like they'll be feeling something, but they can't say it because they're scared. They're scared of what it's going to do. They're scared of like the people around them reacting to them differently. They're scared that they might be disowned, or like thrown out of the house, or whatever it is. So that fear with which you're living could be something related to an implant that they have put in your brain or like in your throat. Mostly it's the throat chakra that gets affected by artificial intelligence, because they're trying to control your speech and they don't want people to know information. And mostly spiritual workers are the ones who get affected by artificial intelligence. So you don't have to worry. Not everyone has it. And even as I'm saying this, please understand these cases are very, very rare. And if you do have, there's always a method of removing it, so there's no problem, there's no harm done. In fact, I had 4 devices in me that were removed yesterday in yesterday's session, and I still feel there's something else inside me, and I'm going to be having another session 2 weeks from now, and I will know more and I will update you on that. But I feel so much more lighter. There is this sense of lightness since the session I've had yesterday, because I know for a fact that something was not allowing me to be in my higher vibrational capacity. Okay, so that's that. What's the last question? I'm sorry.
Actually, can
Did
you
I
please
answer?
show what you're wearing? And it means, is it for protection? Any
Okay,
crystal?
so I just recently bought these. This is Howlite. The white one is a Howlite crystal. The black is tourmaline, which is used for grounding. Howlite is basically a calming crystal. I don't sleep well these days, so I just wear this to try, like, to calm my energies down. I think a lot of what sessions can I do, and what can I do for you guys, and that's the only thoughts I have. So it tends to calm me down to put me to sleep. The third one is malachite, and this is a very interesting stone because it allows you to connect to higher dimensions and open up your psychic abilities. And it's also, I think, of the meteorite family. There are, I think, two or three crystals that come from outer space, and malachite is supposedly from outer space. There is also, keep forgetting the one, moldavite. So this is a moldavite crystal. It looks, I think it's losing its life because it uses quite a lot. And this is basically when a meteorite hits the earth and the silica and the sand merges with that heat, and when it's hitting the earth and the fire happens, in that fire this crystal gets created, and as it rapidly cools it falls to the ground. So these are very expensive crystals, and they're found in only certain areas in the world. And there are a lot of people selling moldavite, which is basically green glass, and it's not the original moldavite, right? All right, Mridul.
Teja, do you have time for a question?
Yes, Kamal, tell me.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if somebody has decided to have a life, they have already decided a script for their life. Is it possible that you can work and change it?
Absolutely.
So for that
Absolutely. Because,
also,
see, we are living in a free will planet. That means that we are our own scriptwriters, directors, actors, everything. So you have the power to change how you want your reality to look like. My reality probably 5, 6 years ago or 8 years ago was completely different to my reality today. And I thought back then that this was my life and I had to just go with it. Like, I had given up hope. I was in a very dark space. I was severely depressed. I was suicidal. I was having a traumatic relationship. And I thought, this is what I have bargained for and this is what I have to live like. There is no way out of this. But then when I chose differently, my life completely changed. And today I'm very happy. I'm doing the work that I've always meant to do. So you can choose differently. Every time you believe you don't have a choice, you're also choosing not to choose, right? So there are multiple choices, right? And you have the power to choose whatever you want to change your life. The thing is, fear is the biggest culprit here. Uncertainty and fear. Because when we want to choose differently, the first thing is like, oh my God, do you think I'll survive this? Do you think I'm going to survive this thing? You will, of course you will, because you have the strength within you to do that. You need to tap into that strength and pull it out. You need to find your strength and say, okay, this is going to be tough, but I'm going to do this one step at a time. It wasn't easy for me to come out of being depressive and suicidal, and I stopped smiling, I stopped joking, I stopped doing all the things that I would love to do. And my entire family thought that I was a ghost walking about the house. That was how I was. But then I realized that it's going to take a while for me to get out of this, but I'm going to work on myself. That promise you make to yourself, you need to follow that through. So whenever you're choosing, you need to choose for your highest good and not for the good of your family or for someone else. Because if you're not happy, end of the day, you cannot make anybody else happy. So you have to make sure that you are provided for by yourself, whether it's emotional sustenance or financial or whatever else. And then you start working on giving it back to others, because if you're empty, what are you giving to others? You need to be full first. You need to love yourself so much that nobody's opinion matters, nobody's validation matters, nobody's anything matters. So even if you are in a situation where you love someone and that other person is behaving a certain way which is making you feel sad or angry or dejected or whatever else, you need to understand that the expectation you have on them for behaving a certain way is what is causing your depression in the first place, or the sadness or the anger in the first place. But if you were to love them without expecting anything back, they have no power over you. So they can do whatever they want, but you're living your life in the best form because it's not affecting you in any way. And that's very difficult to do because we are creatures of expectation. We expect the world to be a certain way. We expect to be treated with respect. We expect so much that end of the day we are left unhappy because your friend didn't call you when she's supposed to call you, or they didn't even compliment your dress or whatever it is. Like, that's an expectation. These days, I just, when I dress up, I just go and say, give me a compliment. It's the easiest. I want it. Why should I expect it? So I just go and say, I'm looking nice, tell me something nice. And if they start saying something, oh, this is not, I'm like, I didn't ask for that. I asked for a compliment. So I specify that I want a compliment, not a criticism on my clothing or whatever. So I'm getting what I want and I'm happy with it. So do things that make you happy. If that means you have to explicitly tell somebody to say something or do something to you, please do it. Nobody's a mind reader. We haven't reached 5D yet. We don't have telepathic powers on. So until that happens, you have to be specific about whatever is that you want. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, that's fine.
Yeah, Mridul, tell me, sorry.
Yeah, hi Teja. Teja, actually, I'm using this Sulema Hakik crystal.
Sorry, what is that?
It is called a Sulema Hakik. I was just going through the internet and I was just checking about the
Can you
crystals
just
to.
keep it closer to your okay. Is that a tiger's eye? No.
No, it's not a tiger's eye. It's not related to any eye stuff, but it is called as Sulema Hakik. That's
Okay,
what
I'm
I
not
have
familiar
read
with
it.
the
But
name. Maybe it
does,
has a
it does look like tiger's eye. It
yeah,
does look.
couple
Yeah,
of the crystals on it does look like it, but I'm not sure what it means in like
this
a
is
more
this is for
common way.
putting the negative energies that come into our way. This is to
Okay.
put away those negative energies. So the thing is, like, as you told, that we do receive negative energies from people. So is there any other way that we can not depending on the crystals, like, but is there any other way that we can put those energies away?
Absolutely. The simplest way of doing it is just setting a white light bubble all around you and putting an intention into that light, saying that whatever is not in my highest good, people, situations, circumstances, places, whatever it is, if it is not in my highest good, they will not enter my space at all. They don't have permission for it. Just as
Okay.
simple as that. Like I said, you are the highest, most potent, powerful tool that you have. Your intention works much better than any of the crystals on this earth. The crystals are here for a different reason. The crystals are living consciousness that is here to program the earth to receive certain energies. So that is their job. So the mankind has basically dug them up and made them into fancy jewelry and said that okay, you do this for, but they do work. Like, I do work with crystals. When I channel, I use labradorite. I don't know if you're familiar with it. I'll just
Is it for the karma, Labradorite? Ground.
so labradorite is a stone that allows you to connect with the divine energies. And I also have a rainbow moonstone, which is also another labradorite stone. Um,
Yeah, this is it, right? Moonstone.
yes, yeah, absolutely. They have a blue sheen or iridescence. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly. They have like a shine, like when you move it about, they have like a blue pearl kind of a shine. Um, okay, Charles Sedoni. I'm not familiar with Charles Sedoni, But thank you, Sangeeta, for that. Richa also asked, sorry, there are questions in the chat. What are inverted triangle faced beings? Interesting. I don't know where you saw the manna, but they could come from any dimension. Like, we have to probably connect with them to find out where they come from.
Okay, they're part of my like guides, but I didn't get a name.
See, again, one thing I need to make it absolutely. In fact, one of the interviews I did recently with a person who channels light languages is going to come out soon on my YouTube. One thing you need to be very, very clear of is your intention, whether you're working with your guides or whether you're working with higher energy beings, whoever else it is. Please say that only the ones who are here for my highest and best interest are allowed to connect with me in spirit form, whether they are spirit guides or anybody else, because we have beings who pretend to be spirit guides and then they make you end up in a hospital, because they keep telling you these things and they make you do certain things and it's so exhausting or tiring, and they may not be there for your highest interest. They may be having their own agendas. So I'm not saying that the triangle, inverted triangle face being, they sound very interesting, that they're not your guides. But when you're connecting with your guides, it's very, very important to put that intention that only those who are here for my highest and best interest can connect with me and nobody else. That's very, very important, right? How to protect your children? You can just simply put a white light pyramid over them, Richa. I know your son is very, very special. You just have to place a white light pyramid around him, or an energy ball. You're very good at that. So just place that energy ball around them and they will be protected, and you put that intention that nothing can come into them. The other thing you can do is, if you meditate regularly and before going to sleep, when you're in that meditative space, just do a body scan and see if there is any block of energy anywhere, and if there is, just ask your guides to remove it for them, because since your son is still very young, you can do that for him. If it's an adult, anyone above the age of 16, you will have to take their permission and say that, can I clear your energies if there is anything that I need to clear? And you can do the same. You just have to do like a body scan and check if there are any energetic blocks. 3.5, very cute. So if there are any energies that are you feel is blocking the flow of energy in the chakras, then just ask for guidance. Many people call Archangel Michael to remove any of the blocks. You can call on to Hanuman, Shiva, Kali, whoever else you believe in, Jesus. Raphael can also come in. Raphael is very good at healing. So if there's anything that needs to be healed, you can also ask Archangel Raphael to come in and help in healing. So it depends on your belief system, really. Yeah, darling. What is this about? Healing energy, but
Does that make sense?
sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say that?
Just an example. If I have Tilly, who I'm trying to heal, but you hear the saying, where your attention goes, your energy flows. Is there a way that I could be trying to heal her, but giving it too much attention so that it just continues and continues? Does that make sense?
You don't have to. So when you set an intention and you're sending energy, say for like about 5 minutes to Tilly, then after some time you can just disconnect and set that intention that even if I disconnect, the energy will still keep flowing. So you are not sending your energies to heal, you're pulling from the universe through your body into Tilly's. So technically you have opened a tap that is going to flow the energy from the universe, the healing energies that Tilly requires, into Tilly's body, and that flow is going to be continuous. So you're going to kickstart it by opening the tap with you physically being present and putting that intention there. But the energy is coming from the universe through your body into Tilly's body and out to through Tilly's body back into the universe like a loop. So if you can imagine that, and then you're flowing whatever color energy, say for example, green is a healing color. So when you're flowing green into Tilly's body, you're setting an intention that only the energies that are in Tilly's highest and best interest can flow into Tilly to heal whatever healing needs to be done. And once you are sure that that connection has been established, you can then just thank the universe and disconnect, because that will keep flowing. So you
Okay.
can do that like once a day or once in 2 days, depending. You can keep checking, is that energy still flowing or not, by connecting to Tilly's energies. But if you think that, it's enough, that she doesn't require it anymore, then you can just stop.
Okay.
Does that make sense? All right.
Yes.
Okay, we're running out of time. I'm already half an hour overboard. So
I have
last
one
question.
question there.
Yeah,
One
Mridul.
question. So like basically like when it comes to like childhood traumas, like which we get the toxicity from our parents. Personally, like I felt like I am repeating the same pattern from my parents, like how they are behaving. Like even I did the same thing, and I'm working on towards healing myself.
Yes.
But is there any way that we can use the quantum healing techniques to heal the parents, and then like can we
So
get
we
avoid
can't
the consequences?
change someone else's patterns or thought patterns and things like that, but we can change what's happening with us, and that has a ripple effect. So even with access consciousness, and those of you who are familiar with my work with access consciousness will know that when you start healing yourself, you're sending a ripple out into the universe. So whoever is connected with you, but roughly around 3 lakhs of people, 3 lakh people around you, whoever is energetically connected with you, it could be your friends, the friends of friends, and friends of friends and friends, like that. It could just ripple out, and the change will be felt by everybody around you. So when you're working at a quantum level, whether it's access consciousness, or sorry, the quantum healing hypnosis that I do, when you start changing stuff about you and healing all those traumas and stuff, it kind of ripples back up your ancestral stream and starts healing their traumas, because traumas can be sent down generations, just like
Okay.
property. They just send you down unwanted stuff as well. So you just, you keep going down, down, down. So when it reaches you and you feel the brunt of it, the moment you start healing it, it will ripple back up, so that entire line gets cleared. So it's like a pipe that's got clogged somewhere. You remove the clog and then it starts to flow, right? So childhood trauma
Okay.
or anything like that is like that. But you can't specifically go and say change your mother's mind or your father's mind. That's without their consent. We can't do that. With their consent as well, they need to come in for a session to heal. So what we can do is we can heal the childhood traumas that you've gone through, and that would impact the relationships that you have in your life. I don't know if you joined in late, because I was telling earlier about a client of mine who could heal the relationship with her mother through a quantum hypnosis session. So it's the same way. She didn't do
Okay.
anything. She just had that information. She healed that life where it was coming from, and then the relationship evolved into being better over a period of time. Yeah. All
Okay.
right.
I got it. Got it.
Last questions. I thought Yashwanti had her hand up. I'm not sure. Um,
I posted it in the group, Teja. Just one small question. You can.
yes, tell me.
how many uh, how many dimensions are there that we could, you know?
Infinite. Like there are many, like science tells us there are 12. Then there are shastras that in our Indian philosophy, there they say about 32 or more than that. There are infinite dimensions actually, because there is no end to the layering of the intricate work that source does. It's not something that ends with one thing, because we are not journeying towards an end. We are journeying through levels of consciousness, which again brings us back to the source, and then again cycles out back. So it's like a, just get used to it. Like we're going nowhere. We're just gonna be
I'm picturing this Doctor Strange
oh yeah,
scene.
yeah.
Jumps from parallel dimension to parallel dimension. There's one dimension where it's all paint, and another dimension where it's all something.
Yeah,
Some.
so parallel dimensions are different from the dimensions that I was explaining to you. Dimensions, energetic consciousness expanding over multiple dimensions, which go up to like 12, 32, whatever, like those numbers that people talk about.
Yeah.
But mostly, oh, I love Doctor Strange. I mean, if I was any superhero, I would be him.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
he's so cool.
Hmm.
But what he does is basically he goes through parallel universes. So parallel universes is the same version, different versions or multiple versions of the same reality. So
Yeah.
in one reality you could probably be a rock star, in another you could be a chef, or another you could have already probably been the richest person in the world. We don't know that, right? So that's what happens in a quantum jump workshop. I don't know if you've ever attended one. In a quantum jumping workshop, we go through these multiple dimensions and choose that one self with from which we want to imprint or kind of bring back whatever abilities they may have, and we come back and live that. So parallel universes will have various versions, so it's all about choice again. When you have, like, say, a simple thing is like you wore red today, but if you had like a blue top and a red top and you chose to wear red, a version of you in another dimension would probably choose to wear the blue, and another would probably choose to wear white or something else, or not even wear like any clothes and decide to just you know be naked. We don't know that, but it's a choice, right? So you have multiple choices. We tend to think that we have just one or two choices, but we have multiple choices, and every choice we make creates a parallel universe, because something else has to happen, right? Like that blue has to be worn somewhere, so it creates another one. So that is how multiple universes work. um, this faulty drainage system represents anything. um yeah, like I was just giving like a analogy of sorts to talk about the ancestry line. When you have ancestors and great ancestors and they've had issues with themselves, and or they had some physical issue, they can tend to come down. Like, if you have a heart disease in the family, then everyone starts to have heart diseases. It's just the same way. Like, so if you unclog this, then the entire pipeline starts to drain out, and then fresh energy starts to come in. So you'll be healing your ancestral wounds um, through this process of cleaning yourself out, because
Teja,
you're the
sorry to interrupt. I asked her about the real drainage system which we have in our house.
no.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. No. We
Okay.
can put meaning to anything and everything that's happening around us. Like, if usually when I see feathers, I associate it with angels saying that, okay, I'm there, I'm here. But sometimes, when I was still learning all of this, whenever I would see numbers, I would be like, why are they sending me so many messages? What is this about? Like, and I would just send myself into overdrive, and I would read up every article about this and that, and why this and why that, and then I realized they're just there. It doesn't have to have meaning. It's just sometimes things are just there. It may not be for you, it may be for someone else. We don't know that. Is it 111?
I always see
No,
111.
not yet.
All right, okay, cool. But anyway, we are out of time. We have gone way, way overboard. I didn't expect this to go on so long, but it was fantastic meeting each one of you. Anish,
Yes,
you've been
yes.
the quietest. You haven't said a word. And Indrani, I think, is busy. Seema also hasn't said anything. We've had like a couple of others. I think they dropped out, but that's fine. So nice to connect with each one of you. I think we should do this more often. I always say this every time I do this, but yeah, let's do workshops. Whatever it is that y'all want to have more of, please put it in the group. Make the group noisy. I request you to talk, ask questions, share experiences, do whatever it takes to be connected with one another, because we are the group that is going to ripple out that energy of love. So if we can stay connected and ripple that out, then everyone else is going to feel that, and that's the whole purpose of doing this work. Okay, so healing is one thing, sending out loving energies to everybody else is another thing. So we'll do a lot of meditations as well, I promise. I've been very busy with doing these additional courses because of my self doubt. But now that I know that I'm sorted, I'm good to go. So we'll do more. Okay. So please
Sure.
put in your questions on the group. If you have more coming in, as and when I see them, I will answer them. If you want more of these things to happen, please do that. Let's also have group workshops. I'm also going to be teaching Akashic Records very soon. There are going to be 2 levels to it. I will give you the details as soon as I'm ready. Um, that's for anyone who wants to have spirit downloads, like packets of information dumped on their heads. Then this is the perfect thing for you to start off with. All right. Love you guys so much. Thank you so much for participating and taking the time out. And I will
Thanks a ton.
connect.
Thanks a ton, Teja. It's always lovely to, in your sessions, you make us feel so calm and lovable, loved.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
don't
you.
like to miss you.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, I was missing everyone. I was like, whoa, it's been so quiet for the last couple of months. And I was like, I need to speak to everyone. But thank you so much for joining
Yes.
in. And we shall
Thanks
connect
for
again
having
soon.
us. Thanks
Yes.
for calling us.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.